Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 159 of the KISS Army Nation podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Pasquale Veri.
And I am Claudius Pera. Welcome to the show, everyone.
So, in a sense, this episode is an ode to the KISS Army. Passionate KISS fans have accomplished numerous achievements, including writing books, organizing pre-KISS cruise parties, podcasts, online auctions, and the subject of tonight's episode, the much-loved and missed KISS Expos. Indeed, we're going to put forth the argument that KISS Expos is the most important gathering in KISStory, and it needs to continue if the legacy of KISS is to move forward.
And to help us discuss what might be a controversial topic, we'll see, is returning panel guest Patrick de Montigny. And of course, we're glad to have back on the show, Mr. Eric Mehta. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, as always.
Same here.
So, Patrick, so let me get things going. So you were once a huge KISS Expo promoter here in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell us some of your experiences running these huge events?
Oh, I mean, they were a lot of fun, but a lot of work. I don't expect fans to realize that. They don't have to. But you had to plan it like months in advance. Like usually I would do my expos like end of August, beginning of September, and I would have to plan them in January prior. You have to make sure you have the guests. Having the guests is a bit of a struggle by itself, and getting good dealers as well, because you have fans who come to see the tribute band but don't care about the rest. You have those who come to see the guests, but you have some who come to see the merch. So you had to make sure you satisfied everybody. But I had great help, I got to say, from promoters from the U.S., different promoters, and they were all very helpful. You would think that it's a competitive world, but since I was in Montreal, I wasn't much of a competition to anyone. Mm-hmm. And they gladly helped. So they were a great experience. And they were, the day of the day prior was the most exciting day, because you'd go and get the guests. You would have dinner and that kind of thing. And then the day of the show, you see it build up, and it was really, really nice.
And speaking of our beautiful city, so do you think that today, is there still a market for KISS Expos in Montreal?
When Vinny made his comeback in 2018, I considered for half a day. I say considered, not decided to do a show, but I said, I don't think the market has changed too much, and I'm not sure even I could get all the hardcores. A lot of people, you have to choose a date wisely. Some people are going to say, well, I'm on vacation, so people have different priorities, so I don't know. I wish I could say yes, but I'm not sure. You don't see any of them in the States anymore, so I'm afraid it wouldn't be the same. We wouldn't be able to do the same kind of show. It would have to be revamped in some ways, but again, it's kind of sad, because we miss those days, to be honest. It was a great time, but would a show like that work in today's world? I'm not 100% convinced.
Patrick, as you know, I tried organizing some KISS-related events here in Montreal. They weren't expos, but, fan parties.
Yeah.
And these parties, I got to say, man, they were over the top. They were just amazing, if I do say so myself. But I feel the problem was that people they weren't willing to pay the price for these parties. I mean, I threw a party in St. Bruno. It was like a huge KISS wedding. I charged like, what, $60 a head? I ended up paying $5,000 out of my own pocket for that party.
Yeah.
And I got maybe, what, 150 people? At $60 for a party that big? Come on, do you agree? Do you think money is also the issue now? Is like people aren't willing to pay the big bucks anymore, or even something?
Yeah, because back in the day when I did the expos, I think I charged like maximum $20. But in today's economy, I don't think it would be realistic to put on a show like that and only charge $20 per person. And of course, they would, if you say, well, it's going to be $100, like, are you crazy? So there's really no there's no solution really, and I totally know what you're talking about. It's like I think to put on an event, I think today, like you got 150 people, and I think that's you locked out in a way because I don't believe if I put on a show we get that many people.
Mhm.
I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, but my party, I had guests, I had tribute bands, I had prizes,
Yeah,
food. I mean,
yeah,
it was insane. But you know, back in the day, in the 80s, when KISS Expos were out, it was a relatively new thing. So it didn't even cost much, I think, to
yeah.
produce an expo in those days. Now, everybody's trying to capitalize on everything. And it's just getting incredibly expensive. It's become unaffordable for even the promoters to run because we're going to lose money for sure.
Oh yeah. No, no, absolutely, I agree, and that's why I'm not willing to do that anymore. So, which again is unfortunate because I miss the camaraderie that was there, and also like I'd see a few things the dealers would buy, and I would spend money too, although it wasn't very wise when you put on a show. But anyways, but that being said, yeah, I do miss the camaraderie, but there needs to be some sort of a KISS gathering, but maybe not to that level.
Mm-hmm. But you see, that's really the topic of tonight's episode, KISS Expos. Do you believe that KISS Expos are necessary for the legacy of KISS to continue? As difficult as it is to, have or promote or do an expo, I think it's necessary. I don't know if you guys agree. Is it necessary? So let's talk about that. So first question, how do you think KISS Expos and conventions have contributed to the band's enduring legacy and fan base? Pat, we'll start with you.
Well, I think the very first expo was back in 1987, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to double check, but really like late 80s, early 90s. And in those days, I think it was just a matter of people getting together, a few, dealers, and say, okay, let's get together. And because there was I hate to say it, but there was a nostalgia for the old KISS. It was starting slowly. And I think it was built for that very reason, because you'd see people go, oh, here's the Dynasty Tour book. Oh, I didn't know that existed. The old stuff, I think it snowballed. And then there was one in Canada put on by my good friend Greg. And it just snowballed from there. And there was a need to do it. And I think the early 90s expos were the best, I think. Mm-hmm. So in today's world, would those be possible? I don't know, but those expos contributed, I think, to keep the KISS legacy alive during the I don't like to say down years, but the years where they were as big of a deal.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Eric, what do you think?
Well, being that I was a little bit younger in the 80s, I was 16 by 1990 and whatnot, I didn't even know about the KISS Expo phenomena until I bought KISS Extreme Close-Up. At the end, they show a UK type expo at the end of that home video, and I was like, wow, that would really look like fun, But even at that, back then in 1998, I was, sorry, not 1998, but 1992, when that video came out or whatever it was, as barely 20, So, I had very little knowledge of the KISS Expos, but I think they're they're an intrinsic part of keeping the legacy alive. And I think, like Patrick just said, and especially during the non-makeup years, it's what kept that flame burning for the original lineup. So actually, I was not even aware of any Montreal conventions until the 95 convention, which was the official one, and then started attending. I think my first one was in Detroit. But yeah, in terms of keeping the legacy alive and, that type of bond between the fans and, the interest in the merchandise, which now is completely different because you can buy whatever you want on eBay. Back then you couldn't. So there was that big attraction, what will I find there? Almost like a KISS flea market, which is what some expos were, I think, were actually referred to for a while in some markets. So, in terms of keeping the interest in the in the merchandise, in the band, in the classic lineup with all the tribute bands that played there. You know, even a live Tommy Thayer's band used to do those expos. I think they were a very intrinsic part of keeping the interest alive, and I think that they played a huge part actually in setting the ground for the reunion in 1996.
Okay. Claudio, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. Well, as you know, as Eric was saying, that's a very good point. I think that was the pathway for the reunion tour. So if I'm not mistaken, the convention it was here in Montreal, it was here in Montreal or Quebec City, I think, in '95, right? '95.
Chateau Chapelain in Montreal.
There you go. So, but yeah, so the guys, they said it all. Between Pat and Eric, huge contribution, to keep the KISS flame alive. And just to give you another take, we have to remember that in some of the countries where they were not going, or they were not touring very often, that was the only thing that fans had. And I remember back in Buenos Aires, where I was living at that time, in 1999, there was an expo where Bruce Kulick was invited. And the next year, I think Eric Singer came also, to host, to be the main guest during the expo. And that was like going to see KISS, for people that live, so far from the US or Canada, even in Europe. The guys were running, expos just to get a sense of what would be to be at a KISS show, to see merch, to hook up with friends. Huge contribution, I have to say. And and again, just to rephrase what Eric was saying, that set the pathway for the reunion tour, big time, definitely.
Mm-hmm. We often talked about it on the show, who saved KISS. I think the question is what saved KISS, because in the 80s, I believe it was Expos that saved KISS. Because like you guys were saying, it's about nostalgia. It's about, thinking back, looking back at the original four, and to bring all these fans together in a room and to discuss the past and the legacy of the band was such a trip for the fans. And that's what made the conventions at the time so enduring. I remember Patrick's early expos that I went to. And Pat, I remember at one point you had a display of vintage KISS stuff. They weren't for sale. They were just for display. It's like, oh my God, to go at these expos and look at this classic merchandise. For me, that's what it was about. It wasn't about the guests. It wasn't about the tribute bands. It was about the merch and looking back at the classic merch of the 70s. And it brought back like a flood of memories of the past. And then talking to other fans about that, that's what kept the spirit and the memory of KISS alive in the 80s. Yes, it was the music. Yes, it was the touring. But if it wasn't for the expos at the time, because it's always been about the past. It's never been about KISS in the present. Yeah. Always about the 70s KISS. And the expos really brought that to light. And Gene and Paul got wind of that. It's like, hey, we need this. And then did the 95 worldwide convention. Yeah. They were in their last legs at that point. If their reunion didn't happen, that was it.
What amazed or surprised me about that expo was that I don't know if you noticed, any one of you who were there, the merch was only vintage KISS, and they were still with Bruce and Eric. That made me go, that's weird.
Oh yeah, with the museums, the costumes.
Yeah, but even the T-shirts they had for sale, it was on the past. I was like, I had no knowledge that was going to be the reunion, but it certainly made you go, for a band that says they are concentrating on the present.
But that whole convention is about focusing on the past. That's what made it so memorable, so special.
Right.
The interesting thing is that, as always with KISS, there's so many branches actually that open up from a specific project. So, in the very early days, they were called the KISS Expos, but then, of course, there were some other fan-related events, such as, the Pre-KISS Cruise Parties, the auctions. So, Eric, do you think that they can't be compared? Are they the same? So they only have a different name? What do you think?
I don't think they can be compared, actually. We're talking about all sorts of different things. Actually, the night before the 1995 Worldwide KISS Convention, there was a record release at the Sphinx, I think it was, for a Montreal-based tribute album, and people went there and they got together and it was cool, there was bands playing KISS songs and stuff. I actually went there with the crew from the 1995 KISS Convention, a lot of the dealers, and we stayed for a few minutes and then we left. But then the next day was the whole day, and that's not just the official ones; it's the unofficial ones. It's like the whole weekend is an event, especially if you're flying in from somewhere else, which is what I used to do in Detroit. You get there the night before, you're sitting in the lobby and you see John Corabi come in, or you see Eric Singer come in, or Bruce Kulick, wherever it might be and whatnot. You start to talk, and we had such great memories of both Detroit and Montreal. If you're talking about the KISS Cruise Parties, you're missing out on the merch aspect of it. It's more a forum to socialize. The auctions, well, it's merch based. The auctions can be done online also, so you're taking out that first person contact between fans, and it's kind of impersonal, but can help you grow your collection and stuff. But what I really miss about the expos was the complete package experience of being excited the night before, getting there, the doors open. I remember some of these expos had this thing we could pay a little more and you'd get there early, so you could snatch up all this amazing merch and whatnot, which I actually did at one of Patrick's conventions, because I'm primarily interested in the 70s, but the 80s stuff was interesting to me too. So I walked in there one day, and I can't remember how old I was, but it was like Christmas, because I collect tour books. And I walked in, they had the Lick It Up tour book, the Animalized tour book, the Asylum tour book, and the Crazy Nights tour book, and they were $20 each back then. Which was, I think, back in 98 or 99. So I was like, oh my God, how is this not gone already? I was fumbling through my pocket to get $100 bill, and, couldn't have been happier that I got these tour books. I still have them. So for the complete package experience, you really need the KISS Expo, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Great answer. Patrick, what do you think?
I've never attended any pre-cruise party, so I can't really say, but I have an idea that they're probably like KISS fans bonding together, because at the end of the day, I think that's what it is. You get together with other people that share the same passion, because sometimes your best friends may like KISS, but not the same way we do. So in a sense, when you get together, whether it's an expo or the events that you put on task or any other type of thing, there's that bond. And I think I can only speak for myself. That's what you're looking after. So there's a similarity in the sense that at the end of the day, KISS fans bond. People have their preferences as far as events go. I'm sure there are some hardcore fans who never attended an expo because they're probably it's not their thing or for whatever reason. So, but like when I went to Atlanta, New York, Detroit expos, man, they were cool. They were like 10 times the expos that I used to put out.
Right.
But you had this bond with people, and I think again that's what mattered the most.
Patrick, I have a question. It's obvious that the high value of these events, it's getting together. Being there, face to face with people, friends that you were maybe communicating for a long time. What's your take on auctions that it's fully virtual? So people today, they're getting connected, almost every night just to try to get some merch. But at the same time, there's a community that has been created. People become friends, then they get together, for instance, in New York or in the cruise. What's your take on the auctions?
It's a good way to have merch, although I'm not a big fan of auctions. I'm the kind of person, like as a buyer myself, I prefer to say, okay, you want how much for this? And if it's the price suits me, I'll buy it. If not, So I'm not too attracted to auctions, but again, yes, I think it's a good way to meet people. And through the network, I was able to sell stuff or buy stuff off people. I don't do much buying in the last. I haven't done any much buying in the last few months, but it's a good network. It's a good way if you're a hardcore collector to get some stuff. So, and again, it's all good.
Okay. So, Pask, back to the original question. So, how do you compare, if they can be compared, KISS Expos with pre-KISS Cruise Parties, auctions, etc.?
Well, if we're talking about gatherings, the KISS Cruise is the ultimate KISS gathering. You can't compare anything to that. The problem with KISS Cruises is that it's exclusive, right? It's for people that have the money, and not everybody can do that. And after a while, it's the same people doing it. With a KISS Expo, you have people from all walks of life at these things. And you talk to a diverse number of people, which is part of, for me, part of the beauty of a KISS Expo. But I find, KISS Cruise Parties, auctions, they're all branches of the KISS Expo. These are different ways of getting together. The ultimate way is the Expo. We don't have an Expo right now. We can't have an Expo. So let's do a KISS-related party. Let's do an auction. Let's do whatever. Because we're making up for what we're lacking, the Expo. Would these things happen if we had an Expo? No, because everybody would be focusing on that. Yeah. So no, I don't think it does compare. I think it's a branch, but not more than that.
All right. Okay. Well, same here. As Eric said at the beginning, it's the ultimate, the full package is the Expo. No doubt, as you guys said. But it's I think things evolve. And of course, depending who's running the event, they might be interested in some specific, category or portion of the event. Maybe not everybody has the access to invite, guests, or they don't have the contacts, and maybe they just concentrate on merch or tribute bands or whatever. The good thing is that there's a little bit of everything for everybody. But going back to the previous question, now with KISS, not touring anymore, I think that's one of the main things that we miss, getting together in these expos or pre-parties or whatever. But that's the only thing that is actually missing. If you remember, Pask, we're not going to get into the details of Madison on December the 2nd, but I think the pre-party run by Joe D'Angelo and Patrice, that was the best. That was the real farewell, to the band. So it's interesting because you might think that the concert or the show will be the ultimate, but it was before, so that was kind of a nice closure.
Yeah, totally agree. And going back to my concept of the branches, just imagine if we had a KISS Expo today, what do you think would happen? You would have people from podcasts coming in, people from auctions coming in, people who organize these parties coming in, all together as one in one huge gathering. Yeah. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. Yeah. All right. So, we're talking about KISS Expos. Obviously, let's talk about, our earliest KISS Expo experience. Patrick, Claudio, what was it for you?
Well, as I said, my earliest was back in 1999 when we ran the Expo in Buenos Aires. And at that time, it's funny you mentioned that because I was not in the organizing committee, but me and three friends, we had something that was called the KISS Museum. And we were showcasing our merch. It was not for sale. It was just to display it. And I remember that was a big attraction. Everybody was coming to see, and they were all freaking out because, some of my friends, they had really, really cool stuff from the 70s, the old coin, stuff, which was really, really hard to get in South America, man. Maybe only if you had a relative in North America or a friend, they can send you something. So that was my earliest experience. And then, of course, Bruce was playing live. with a local band. And then the following year, Eric Singer did the same thing. We put up, the KISS Museum with my friends, and the same dynamics. Then Bruce Kulick and Eric Singer, they were staying till late at night, signing stuff for every single fan that was there. It was intense, the Latin American people that, it's very intense. So they had never, except for 94, where, when that was the first time that KISS toured, the region, they didn't have the chance to see a KISS member. So when they had him so close, it was like, it was interesting. It was really, really intense. Yeah, good memories, I have to say. The one with Eric Singer back in 2000, it was a little bit strange because Eric, he was a bit of a rock star. He didn't want to. He didn't have the same attitude as Bruce Kulick had the previous year, so that was a big of a disappointment. But yeah, that's it. That was my experience with the earliest KISS Expos.
Okay, Patrick, how about you?
First ever expo was again put on by my good friend Greg in London, Ontario. First time I attended was in 1992, and it was like I have vertigo when I think of the amount of money that I spent there. But it was nice. It was it worth the drive, and of course the camaraderie was there as well. And it was funny. It gave me an idea like how it was, because you would see photos and fanzines and things like that, but there's nothing compares to being there. And you'd make friends. Also, you'd say, okay, you like to go, yeah, do you have that thing? Yeah, back in the old days, you would give each other addresses and you would send a letter or that kind of thing. So it was, but it was fun, and it was, again, there was that bond that was great. So, and of course, it's like I would attend an event like that every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
true.
It was fun.
Cool. Eric, how about you?
Well, actually, my earliest KISS Expo experience was the official one in 1995. But apart from the official ones, my first unofficial KISS Expo memory is actually the best one, because it was one of the Detroit expos at the end of the 90s. And I flew out there, and then I got a rent-a-car. We got to the hotel with the organizer. I won't mention, because he doesn't like his name mentioned too much nowadays and whatnot, so I won't mention the name of the organizer. But we were at the Ramada Inn in Romulus, and Bruce Kulick came in, who was a special guest, and John Karabi also. And we're just sitting in the lobby, and at one point, Bruce Kulick came back down the elevator with a guitar, and he put the guitar next to me, and he goes, "Would you mind watching my guitar?" While he went and did something. So I said, "No, of course not." I was like, wow, I'm watching Bruce Kulick's guitar. So as it turns out, they were going to some bar. I don't know if it was planned or not, to jam. It was called the Bullfrog Bar and Grill, I think in Empire, Michigan. So a whole bunch of us wound up following them in a car, including Jerry and Benny, who were in a New Jersey-based tribute band called Deuce. I think Deuce might have actually played one of Patrick's conventions. Anyway, after I met them, they did play Rock Quest on Hymas for a Halloween party. So we went there, we went to the Bullfrog, we had a great time. Bruce played, it was a really nice evening, completely unexpected. The next day, because this was after the Butterfield auctions, I met up with the owner of the, not the owner, but the organizer of the convention. And he said, "Hey, could you help me set up?" So we went out in the parking lot and basically opened up these trucks, and it was all the original costumes on mannequins, the Dynasty boots, Ace's Dynasty boots, the robes from Kiss Meets the Phantom, Paul's Dynasty boots. And he's like, "Yeah," he goes, "if you can help me carry this stuff inside." And,
oh my God.
And in my young mind, I just had abdominal surgery and whatnot. I grab a mannequin that has like Gene's costume on it from like 1975 or something, and I'm carrying it under my arm. And at one point, the organizer looks at me and he goes, "Eric, just try to be careful with that a little bit and whatnot. It's worth a lot of money." So I turned to him and I said, "So what do you mean it's worth a lot of money?" I goes, "These are originals, they're not replicas." And I almost fainted in the parking lot because but man, it was like a religious experience. I remember actually going in and organizing everything and setting everything up. And like you're a young guy, you're fascinated because I came into KISS fandom with the Dynasty album and tour. So I had just put down Ace's boots with the mirrors on it and Paul's boots with kind of like the peacock feather type thing on it. And I'm looking at them and they're in pretty good condition, but they are worn. You can tell they've been worn. And I just sat there and I put one hand on Ace's boot and the other hand on Paul's boot. And I was just like summoning like the gods of KISS or something. I was like, this is like the coolest thing. I was just waiting for like the lightning to strike me and whatnot and say, you were anointed as a KISS disciple officially by touching these boots. So yeah, no, that blew my mind. And there was a KISS tribute band that day, of course, tons of merch. I actually spent a lot of time with Gordon Guibert, who had written Kiss and Tell. And even though at first I had misgivings about the book kind of like being kind of like snitch-like, I actually got on extremely well with Gordon. We had a lot of fun too. So that was a fantastic, fantastic experience.
That was, Eric, that was in Detroit, that one?
That was in Detroit, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Phil Elliott was there, like I said, the organizer, who I won't mention. He actually runs a photo studio now in Michigan and whatnot. And basically all the major players were there. So that was another cool thing too. There were tons of bootleg CDs. Like I remember one of them I bought was The Other Side of the Coin, Ace Frehley, with all sorts of unreleased demos and stuff. And so, yeah, it was more than an expo. It was like KISS heaven.
Wow.
First experience wasn't a great one. It was 1994. There was a KISS Expo at the Metropolis, and no one showed up. None of the dealers showed up. So the day show was canceled, but they had KISS Alive play at night. So we saw the show, and that was fantastic. They looked just like the original members. And I remember talking to one of the organizers of that particular convention. And he said, "Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. KISS is coming back with their own convention next year." I thought nothing of it at the time. It's like, hey, yeah, whatever. And then they were back in '95. I saw that. It was like, that was my religious experience, And that's when I caught the bug. And a lot of my expos were basically the ones that Patrick organized. And I can't tell you which ones specifically, but there was one, Patrick, that with Mark St. John, and we were at the bar downstairs with a friend of mine, and there's Mark, and we just started talking. Yeah. It was really something else, and those were the days where expos got bigger. It wasn't just the merch. What you did was you brought in the guests. You had Bruce Kulick, Bill O'Coin. That was something else. I still have his CD signed by him. I'm so glad I got to meet him, and that was because of you. Just an amazing experience.
It's funny you mentioned that, because talking about memories and whatnot. I was actually at that convention with Bill O'Coin, and Gordon Guibert was there too, if I remember correctly. They were set up at the table. And we actually went down to the hotel bar afterwards, and Bill O'Coin had a couple too many. So I'm not going to divulge what was said and whatnot, but it kind of made me realize why bands and certain celebrities have non-disclosure agreements and whatnot. Right. So one day I'll tell you privately what was said, but me and my friend Jeff actually were at the next table while he was drinking his drink. We were like, "Oh my God, can you believe this?" and whatnot, sort of thing. One of the stories he told, actually, that I can repeat was how the whole Cadillac, Michigan thing was kind of overhyped, about how, the helicopter took off and literally it went, a few hundred feet and it touched down and they got out and they got in limousines and went. So that was one of the stories he told that I can relate. That I'm not going to relate the other ones because they're kind of a little bit touchy, but that was a great memory too.
Nice. So now, going back in time, we're talking about almost, a little bit more, actually, 30 years. Okay, so long evolution of KISS Expo. So the next question, guys, it's like, how do you think the KISS Expos have evolved over the years? Were there changes? And if so, what do you think? What have you noticed as changes? Pask, so you've been there, so this is an interesting one. Go ahead.
That's a good question, because although I wasn't in the expos in the 80s, those expos, again, was about 70s KISS. It was more about the merchandise, less about the performances, less about the guests, but about the merch. And then it got bigger, it became about the merch and the guests and the shows. And then it got even bigger now because an expo, a one-day expo, just doesn't cut it anymore.
No.
So the last expo I went to in New Jersey was the one with Ace, where he played his entire solo album. And that was a 3-day event. And that was one hell of a party. And after that particular expo, I can never go back to a one-day expo. It's just not enough. And then you have the Neil Davis, if you want to call it an expo. It's a major event like Creatures Fest. But here's my opinion on this. Those shows are incredible. The guests that he has are amazing. The themes that he has, the concepts in these shows are unbelievable. My God, he had the tank. He recreated the tank from Creatures. Amazing stuff that he has. But you know what? It's become a point now where we're putting air in the balloon, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. At one point, it's gonna pop. How can you even compare to what Neil Davis is doing or has done? And what could he possibly do to outdo what he's done? In my opinion, that's where the Expos have evolved, to the point where Neil Davis has organized these events. I think it needs to go back to what it was originally about. Getting together as fans and reminiscing about the band, past, present, future, the works, through music, through merchandise, through discussion with the guests. It doesn't have to be that big. It has, something simple, I think would work amazing. So I think it should evolve back into what it was in the 80s.
Okay, good point. Eric, what do you think?
I agree, because I mean, being friends with dealers in the United States, what I've heard over the years is dwindling attendance for the Expos. And of course, there was even a DVD called KISS Loves You, which was a very critical DVD of the whole KISS experience post-reunion, where they actually showed even some conventions, I think were in New Jersey or New York, where the attendance had been drastically reduced. And, the tribute bands seemed kind of bitter and stuff and whatnot about everything that was going on. So I think, how have they evolved? Well, people now know that it has to be a major spectacle if you want to draw. And I mean, I think a few years ago, Paul Stanley was actually a guest at the Chicago KISS convention. I think I remember watching the Q&A on YouTube, and like you mentioned, the tank and Ace's birthday a few years ago and stuff. So these are big marketing ploys to get people there. But with the big marketing ploys come the big ticket prices a lot of times too. And so like what Pasquale was saying and whatnot, I think honestly we need to revise the original model of what it was, especially now with the band retired, with the whole deal with Sweden kind of in mothballs without not very much stuff coming out, I think there's a market for it, because I will tell you honestly, I kind of like miss the whole thing since they retired more than I thought I would. Like I'll go to the newsstand, and it used to be, you'd always see KISS in a magazine. Now it's already, you're not seeing it that much. And it's like, I kind of miss that thing. So I think that if it was priced properly, if the model was a multi-type tiered approach with tribute bands and merch and all sorts of different things and contests, like just a really fun celebration of the band, we could have something we could have something that would celebrate not just the fans but the legacy of the band, and I think it could be successful. Maybe not as successful as the peak of the New York conventions in the 90s, where there were thousands upon thousands of people that were going, because of course the band is not as popular now as they were in 96, 97. But yeah, I think we could move forward with them. Yeah.
Okay. Patrick?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think like all those events were really incredible and things like that. But I remember going back to the London Expos of the early 90s. They were very simple. Nice hotel, cool vendors who had great stuff. You had the whole day. You didn't have to, oh God, I'm gonna look through, but oh, the guest is coming any minute now. And I'm not saying it's because I put on those shows, but they were a lot more relaxed, and I think we may need something like that, something that is relaxed, that you have the whole day to look through stuff and talk with people, and you know. And I love your example, Pascal, saying like it's like a balloon that you keep, you know, at some point it's gonna explode, and how can you top that? So I think the early days of the Expos were great. Even the one in New Jersey that I attended in '94, where Peter Criss was the guest. Yeah, you had a tribute band and you had Peter as a guest, but it was still relaxed. You know, you would walk around and like it was a gymnasium full of KISS stuff. So it's KISS heaven. So we need something like that, a lot more like relaxed. I think big events are cool. I mean, they're. I wish I could attend one, but I think we may need to get back to basics.
Well, these are good points, guys. So it's I think it's all related to the economics these days. So Eric was mentioning, and to me, one of the big drivers why these expos are not happening so often now, it's because of cost. So it's when you set the threshold so high as what Neil Davis did, then you have the VIP packages, you have the meets and greets and all of that, which I don't think, well, I wasn't here, but I don't think that in the first expos there were different ticket prices. You just paid, for the admission, and then you had access to everything. Now it's like there's these sub layers, in the ticketing structure that actually sometimes you don't feel like going, because if you cannot pay the highest VIP ticket, then you know that you're not gonna have the full experience. You're not gonna be able to walk by and cross paths with the musicians, because they're all gonna be secured in the VIP section. So I'm not criticizing the model now. What I'm saying is that it evolved, and of course it's a different demographics. We're talking that expos were intended to be a fan gathering, but I think that now it's only targeted for people that actually have the money, big money, to pay for that. Then for the rest of the fans that actually they want to have the chance just to listen to tribute bands and maybe buy some merch, they don't have that chance anymore, because the expos are not happening, and because of the cost. It's gonna be hard once the threshold is so high. It's going back to the roots, or going back to the basics. It's gonna be tough, because fans, they might not be so excited, if you don't have the full package. But at the end of the day, it's as I said at the beginning, it's all about cost, and I hope there's gonna be an offer so that normal fans, without having to be extremely wealthy, we have the chance to go and see these expos and have the chance to hook up with friends. Yeah.
Okay, so we came up with a lot of opinions, very valid, very good points. But someone could say, you know what? Okay, so what would you do? So let's answer that question, right? So if KISS Expos are to move forward, what would you suggest improving or adding to the experience? In other words, if you were given the resources and the means to organize an expo the way you want it, what would you do? We'll start with Patrick.
I think what I would do is I would try to get the record company involved to supply some really great prices for draws. You could say, oh, we have promo stuff and things like that. Make it appealing so the fans can go, oh, I gotta go there. And also maybe try to have a guest, but not someone part of the band. You could have someone, I don't know, maybe Doc McGee, something that would sort of like give back the spark, something like that, because Doc McGee certainly has some stories to tell. And as far as merch goes, it would be a little more complicated to try to get dealers, because now they sell online without the hassle of traveling. But maybe you could get local people and maybe like local KISS fans who do sell stuff, or and I think there's so much we can reinvent, but I think it could be something like that to have a new spark to the show.
Okay. Claudio, what do you think?
Well, if I had the means, I would love to have, some of the original members, like having Ace or having Peter, as a guest, just maybe with a brief, Q&A. That would be awesome. I would love to see people who were close to the band in the early days, people who actually helped them get to where they are today. So, part of the crew, people who were involved in some of the early recordings, like sound engineers or producers. To me, that would give, a flavor to the expo, which is kind of unique. Merch is tough, as Patrick was saying, and I would also love to have a couple of tribute bands, all KISS. I wouldn't like to have other bands, playing glam or playing rock and roll, which is not KISS related. So to me, if it's a KISS Expo, it has to be all about KISS.
All right, Eric, what are your thoughts?
Actually, I was just thinking of this afternoon. I had a pretty interesting idea. The old expression, it takes money to make money. I think that's especially pertinent in these times. And I was thinking to myself, that something that could really work, and maybe I'm completely wrong about this, Gene has the Gene Simmons Band now. If he took out the Gene Simmons Band, but he planned basically expo appearances around the Gene Simmons Band type appearances, it would have to be larger venues. But of course, no one has better access to the vintage merch and whatnot than Gene does. He's great at planning. And of course, you could have the Gene, but again, it would, like Claudia was saying, would definitely be a multi-tiered experience. You'd probably have a meet and greet, question and answer. You'd have the concert portion. I mean, the sky's the limit with all sorts of different types of, dinner with Gene. I just read today that Bruce Kulick is doing a dinner in Vegas with not just Bruce Kulick, but his wife Lisa too. Yeah. So I think in terms of, having access to all that great old paraphernalia, videos that they could screen on the big screen and stuff like that. If it was an official thing going forward with like a member like Gene, and you actually have Gene up on stage, and maybe you'd also have a tribute band as well. And I read somewhere actually that Gene might be writing with Ace. I don't know if that was true or not, but
yeah, there's a rumor there. Yeah,
ultimately it could be a combination where they work something out where sometimes it's Gene doing the con when Gene's not available. It would be Ace doing question and answer in a set, type thing. Mm-hmm. So that was just something that to me was like, well, I'm surprised, knowing how much Gene loves money that he hasn't thought of this yet.
It'll come.
We thought about this. And as I said earlier, I'd want to do something a little bit more simple. As a matter of fact, I think it would be cool if we did an expo sort of like an offshoot of this podcast, because this podcast is about having guests and telling our story. And when you put all these guests together, it tells a huge historic story. And I think that would be cool in a convention setting. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't want to have, members of the band, these big guests and meet and greets and stuff. I would want to have guests that we've seen on this podcast, on other podcasts, that would sit on a panel and tell their story to the fans and make it interactive like podcasts, where fans are interacting with them and telling their stories. How cool would that be? We're at a point now, I believe, with the end of the road, where fans are starting to sell off their collection. So I'm not so sure it would be that difficult to have dealers, because I think people want to start getting rid of their collections. And we have a lot of KISS fans who, are writing books and coming up with their own merchandise. Wouldn't it be cool if they were there to sell their merchandise? If they want to basically promote or release for the first time, do that at one of our expos. And what would also be cool if we did an unveiling right? Imagine unveiling the next soundboard at the expo, you know, and that's how we could promote the expo. There's going to be an unveiling of new music and new this, new soundboard, whatever it is, new KISS figure. They're coming out with the Gene. What's next to be seen at this expo? So we have these people, these companies that are coming to these expos and promoting and releasing for the first time. I think that would be a cool evolution of an expo where you have these people coming in and unveiling product for the first time at these expos. That would be, in my opinion, incredible. I would end the show or end the day with bringing fans together through music. Let's do KISS karaoke, right? And then after the karaoke, have a tribute band playing. And then let's go to a bar, have a couple of drinks together, and wind down. Let's start something simple. I think that is something that I'd want to do.
That's a great idea, man. I think we should put together the ideas of all four, you know, just to create the ideal expo. You know, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
I think actually that idea has great purchase, because actually there's a book that came out recently called The Best Kiss of My Life and whatnot, and it's kind of like what you're discussing in book form.
Yeah.
And also what you're saying about the unveiling and stuff, that's not 100%, because I used to be friends with Chris from Fried Alive fan club in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a selling point back then, though it was unofficial, you know, that you would unveil like a new bootleg and stuff. So I remember at one point, you know, the big thing was that Roosevelt Stadium, New Jersey 76 had just surfaced. So that was also a major selling point. And around that same time, you know, I think it was the Rotten to the Core demos and stuff of Gene came out. So yeah, that's actually a great idea, Pas.
Thank you.
And if you do KISS karaoke, I've got dibs on singing A Million to One with Brad.
Nice.
I love it. So, you know, guys, we were talking about demographics, you know, all across the episode. So, of course, we're all, you know, KISS fans. You know, we know that KISS has kind of evolved and went through generations. So, but do you think that a KISS Expo today can appeal to a new or younger fans who may not have grown up with the band? Eric, what do you think?
In a word, my short answer is no, and I will tell you why. Because I've been organizing music and local things in Montreal now for a couple of years, and every time I meet with a municipal employer, a mayor, about doing youth-oriented music events, the answer is the same. Youth are not that interested in music anymore, where they have that fanatical thing that we had growing up. It's almost like become ambient music to the youth. So could expos appeal to newer, younger fans? If the parents were super, super devoted, I guess, and had passed it on to the kids, yes. Otherwise, do I think that just like a casual fan in high school who might have just picked up a KISS CD, well, not even CD, who might be listening to KISS on Spotify or Megadeth on Spotify is going to say, hey, you know, I'd really like to spend $40 to go to that KISS Expo this weekend. I don't think the younger generation really has it in them to do that type of thing. They're used to that, you know, instant gratification too of the internet, where they don't really have to go anywhere or spend time anywhere to do. It's all at the fingertips. So sadly, I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll be surprised in 3 years or whenever it happens when the avatars come out. You know, it's a runaway smash. The kids really, you know, take to it, and maybe a whole type of fandom will grow out of the avatars that maybe won't be so appealing to us, but to the younger kids, who knows? I don't know. But right now, could we count on the younger generation, younger fans, to kind of fuel a convention type phenomenon? I don't think so. No.
Okay. Pask, what's your take?
Okay, I have to disagree with that, because in my opinion, for KISS to continue, the next generation has to get into them somehow. And how else are they going to do that? Think it's going to be through avatars? Personally, I don't think so. You know, something like Scooby-Doo, for example, got kids into it. But that's a small niche, you know? How did kids get involved with KISS? It's through their parents. It's the parents that passes on the legacy to their children. And Eric, I agree with you in terms of youth and music. I work with teenagers. I know all about that, believe me. And I think generally you're right with music in general. But KISS isn't typical. KISS is different because KISS is not just about the music, but it's about the look. It's about the comic book aspect of it. And, you know, my own students sometimes make fun of me for my love for KISS because they don't understand. But if they were brought to an expo, it's like, I get it now. But
Do you
this
think
has
they
to
will
be,
get it? Do you think they will get it?
yeah, I really think
Yeah.
they would. I really think they would understand. Maybe not at a teenager's age, but, you know, a 10-year-old, when they're still impressionable, that's where you'd get them, man, you know, when they're impressionable.
Mhm.
And, you know, oftentimes these kids have experienced KISS through their parents. And it's like, oh, that's kind of cool, you know. But then to basically go to an expo, then something clicks in their head. It's like, oh, I understand now. And I think they'd be more likely to get into it. But I believe we need an expo or expo type events for kids to continue the legacy of KISS, because eventually we're going to die off. And who's going to be left to continue that legacy? And how is that legacy going to continue? How's this going to happen? And I think that's foremost on the band's mind with the avatars. Hopefully that this will continue the legacy of KISS forever. Again, I'm not so sure. It's done through merchandising. It's done through community spirit. That's what brought us together. And that's what we need to bring these kids together to continue that legacy. It's sort of like these kids that take on their parents' business. Well, this KISS is our business. We want our kids to take over our business and do better than we did. That's the only way, in my opinion. That's the only way. Hey, if I had kids, believe me, they would take over the family KISS business for sure. For sure.
Absolutely. Patrick?
I'm kind of sitting on the fence on that one. I want to believe that we could be pleasantly surprised, but part of me is also agrees that I don't think the younger people like music or consume the music the same way we did or we still try to do. Therefore, it's hard for me to imagine something like that being successful. But we could be surprised. It's surprising sometimes. I think the younger generation may be appealed to vinyl and that kind of thing. So who knows? Maybe it skipped a generation, but the younger ones go, "Oh, what's this? You know, it looks interesting," and build from that. And maybe the need also to, okay, we can no longer see the real KISS. Let's go see a tribute band to get at least the experience. That could be a draw, but I'm mixed emotions about that.
Okay. Well, I'm closer to Eric on this one. I think the speed we live today, and we talked about this in some other episodes. Younger people, they want things fast. I don't think they have the loyalty and the time to go to a place and spend maybe a day or a full weekend just to be looking at KISS stuff. It's tough because we're talking and we have our own mindset. We are in our 50s, 60s, and that's how we grew up. But that's why I asked you when you were talking, Pask, if they will get it. Maybe, I don't know if it's going to click for them. Of course, it's going to be something new. It's going to be something like, okay, yeah, wow, a wow effect, but maybe for the day. I don't think it will create this sense of belonging and, and looking after or waiting, for the next expo to come to town, like us, So we were so excited when a new album was coming up. Now, even with music, the kids, they just happen to find songs, on Spotify. They give it a listen for a couple of minutes, but I don't think they're going to go to a band. Maybe, it's interesting because we can relate to, things like, Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, where there is some kind of cult, for younger people, but it's minuscule. I don't think it goes, as big as it did with KISS and the KISS fandom. It's just a small group. But I agree with you, Pask, on the thing that it's up to the parents. If we pass the torch to them, of course it's going to work. But I don't think there's going to be a critical mass as it happened in the 80s or 90s.
Okay.
I think also, just I don't want to interrupt again and whatnot, but I think we're also ignoring a key point, that part of the reason we felt so close to the band and still feel so close to the band is because most of us started listening in the 70s and we grew up with Paul,
Yeah.
Peter, Gene, and Ace. Because remember, when they were playing in the 70s, they were barely out of their teens themselves, Paul and everything, and we were young kids too. So we kind of lived the dream with them. It kind of like, not only was it great music and a great show, but it kind of showed us what was possible in life.
Mm-hmm.
To think big, like Elvis Gratton would say. Sorry, I can't resist that. To think big. I'm kidding. But yeah, so I mean, the whole philosophy, the whole mythos of KISS, it was indoctrinated into us in our blood, like from the time we were preteens. So I mean, of course, it's going to be something that we're going to be loyal to and defend, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be part of our DNA until we die.
Yeah.
Okay, so Eric, that's a good point you just made. So I'm going to ask you the next question, and here's the million-dollar question. Do you believe the KISS flame will slowly begin to burn out if KISS Expos cease to exist?
Well, I think KISS burning out is kind of like a multi-tiered question, and I think absolutely, if the Expos happened and we could keep that fandom going without the band being an active touring entity, that would be fantastic. But along with that, the licensing deal to Sweden has to bear fruit. They have to start releasing quality product that celebrates that era of the band, that's so dear to so many people, and put some thought into it, packaging, incentives, and also make it to a point where it's affordable to the average fan. Because like Pask said, it's like now there's like the elite fan who can afford the cruises and the $1,000 vinyl packages. And then there's fans, that have a lot of financial responsibility, family obligations. So for them, the alternative to keep the fandom going is, paying $25 for an off the soundboard, or if an archive Blu-ray comes out or something, whatever, so it's but yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we want to keep the sense of community, the KISS community going on, the Expos are crucial, and podcasts are crucial, and just keeping that interaction between fans going. That has kept the Beatles fandoms going for so many years now.
So who bears the responsibility more to continue the legacy of KISS? Do you think it's organizations like Pop House, or is it the common fan?
For me?
Yeah.
For me, it's absolutely the common fan.
Okay.
Because, like you see, a lot of the most interesting things that are coming out now, whether it's Alain's books from Japan, or that book that recently came out there, The Best Kiss of My Life, the stuff that's most relatable to fans is being done by fans. And I mean, that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, because it takes a fan to know what a fan has been through and what a fan relates to, with, all the millions and billions of dollars that execs have at that Swedish, whatever the name of that company is and whatnot. Their finger's not on the pulse of what the average fan wants. And KISS's finger has not been on the pulse of what the average fan wants for many years as well. So it's up to us to keep it going however we can, and podcasts like this are an absolutely great avenue. And like Pasquale was saying, parlaying this into some sort of, even if it wasn't like a huge expo, there was some sort of like gathering with merch and stuff, and like you said, we could go out and have a few drinks and maybe have a tribute band. It doesn't have to be anything like an epic scale where you have a recreation of a tank stage or this stage or that stage. Just something to keep the socialization between fans going.
Right. Okay. All right. So Claudia, what do you think? Will the KISS flame slowly begin to burn out if KISS Expos cease to exist?
Yeah, definitely yes. I don't want to repeat what Eric was saying, but I'm of the same opinion. But there's something else that I wanted to add to this. KISS fans were were kind of special because we've always been used to have a band releasing stuff all the time, and I'm not only talking about music. I'm talking about merch. You know, they always give us something new, something to look after. We were all excited, you know, and many of the projects they were actually around new releases, like, you know, the box set coming out, you know, the Kiss of the Soundboard coming out. So then why I'm saying this, it's because Pop House, I think it has a lot to do with how fans are going to be feeling from now on in order to get together, in order to release a book, in order to keep doing podcasts. Because, you know, if there's nothing else happening in the KISS camp, well, you know, yeah, we can continue doing podcasts, but I don't think it's going to be so exciting as to discuss, you know, the debut album box set that it's just been released, or, you know, an anniversary of some specific album that we all love. So to me, it's a combination of both things. Of course, there's the fandom, and there's the, you know, the projects run by fans that are awesome. But at the same time, I think from KISS Company, something has to happen. If, you know, we've been experiencing now for at least I don't know, 6 months, complete silence, okay, from the KISS Company, and we're starting to wonder what's going to happen. Okay, we're all waiting for Pop House to do something special. So I'm wondering, because we're so used to it, and it doesn't happen to maybe to Iron Maiden fans, it doesn't happen to Queen fans or to Zeppelin fans, because they were not bombarded with stuff all the time like we were. Now that we don't have that, it's like something is missing, you know. And I'm afraid that this flame that we have burning inside is going to start to kind of burn out if we don't see new stuff coming out.
Interesting point. I agree with you to a point. Yes, we do need the fan aspect and, you know, the business aspect of Pop House and stuff. But I feel that aspect of Pop House is a bonus. Listen, KISS has ended, what, 6 months ago. Claudio, we're still releasing an episode a week. We have so much to talk about. And I haven't even thought about Pop House and what they possibly might release, because there's so much exciting things that are happening through the fans. These books coming out, these figures coming out, the makeup, all this great stuff coming out by fans. Mm-hmm. And that's what keeps the legacy going. It's us. KISS is about the money. We're about the community. And I think if we're going to continue this community, the responsibility is on our shoulders to continue going. Pop House and whatever, then it's about making money. Us, it's about maintaining the community. And I think that's the most important thing.
And what do you think how do you think the Expos play into this?
That's exactly what we need. It's the Expos that will keep these communities going. Not even the KISS cruises, because the KISS cruises are so expensive and not everybody can do that. But you start doing Expos around the country, you know, it could bring fans together from around the world more than any KISS cruise has ever done. Yeah. It's definitely possible. So, because Patrick has organized Expos before, I want the last word, Pat, to go to you.
I think, there needs to be some kind of KISS event. To what extent does it have to be a KISS Expo? It could be a mixture of things. These podcasts, any kind of gathering. I think the KISS flame, it goes beyond the organizations. Also, like, the KISS company has to make sure they release products to keep the flame alive. They have to, put out product for sure. Maybe release documentaries, videos, whatever. But there needs to be something on their side to keep us motivated. Otherwise, I think it goes together, in my opinion.
I think these companies should look towards the fans to see the talent out there and hire them. There's amazing fan talent out there, and the stuff that they could produce, mind-numbing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, guys, so some closing remarks from my side. It's as always, it's a pleasure, Eric, Pat, and Pask, to share time with you. I've learned so much because you guys, you had the possibility and the luxury to experience these KISS Expos in North America since the early 80s, 90s. So all your stories were great. So and once again, thank you so much for your openness, for your time, to share with us, and looking forward for the next one.
No, what we do on this podcast with the interviews, the fan profiles, these discussion panels, that's exactly the point. It's all about community. It's about reaching out to people around the world and telling our story, not just to each other, but to the next generation, because their stories are coming up soon. So guys, once again, thank you so much for being on the show. This was fun. Looking forward to doing it again. And to the KISS Army, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please send them to talktome@KISSArmyNationPodcast.com. Until the next time, remember, never stop rocking. Take care, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and X. You can watch us on YouTube or listen to us on Podomatic, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. This is about you, so please like and subscribe to support the amazing guests we have on the show. See you soon, KISS Army.